Hello and welcome to the Cognac Jewellery School. Today we're going to be making silver Russian rings like these ones. Let's get started. For this project, you will need approximately 20 centimeters of half-round silver wire and your ring size. If you don't know your ring size already, and you don't have a ring size at hand, you can measure your ring size by using a piece of string or a strip of paper, but I'll put a link in the description for a tutorial for how to do this. Once you have your ring size, it's time to do some maths. There are a bunch of different formulas you can use to calculate the length of wire you need to make these kind of rings, but this is the formula I like to use. Measure 3 identically sized rings either with a ruler or a vernier gauge, and saw 3 lengths. It's important that all your wires are the same length. If one is longer than the others, you'll end up with one ring bigger than the others. But don't panic, you can easily file the long ones down to size. Next, grab yourself a hide mallet and a ring mandrel, and we're going to turn those wires into rings one at a time. At this point, it really doesn't matter if your rings are actually round or not. The only thing you want to achieve is a nice curve where the two ends of your wire meet, as that will help with the next step. Once all 3 wires are roundish, we're going to create the perfect join for soldering. I like to do this by filing the ends of my wire to the right angle for them to come together neatly. Then push them together and gently saw through the unsoldered join so that the ends meet seamlessly. An in-depth tutorial on how to do this will be linked in the description. Now we're ready for soldering. Paint some flux on the join of your ring, inside and out, and using steel tweezers, place a small piece of solder on top of the ring, overlapping the join. Don't forget to heat the ring gently all over before concentrating your torch on the join to avoid warping your wire. Repeat this step with all 3 rings. Quench them and pop them in the pickle. Once your rings are pickled, it's time to make them look more like rings. Take them over to your ring mandrel and using a rawhide mallet, give them a good wallop to make them round. First on the mandrel one way and then the other. Now is the time to vent all of your pent-up frustrations, but try not to hit your fingers. Flatten your rings on a steel block with the same hammer and then take them to your bench to file any excess solder from your join. File the inside of your rings with a half-round file and the sides and the outside with a flat file before starting the polishing process. I like to use emery pads, which are essentially emery paper on sponge, but emery sticks or just regular emery paper are just fine to use too. Work your way up from the coarsest grit to the finest grit, inside and out, until your join is invisible and your ring is beginning to shine. For rings like these, I like to polish them with my polishing motor to get a really good shine, but if you don't have a polishing motor, a barrel polisher or hand polishing works too. If you're using a polishing motor, polish inside and out, and then pop them in the ultrasonic to clean them. What you're left with are 3 beautiful but entirely separate rings. But today we don't want 3 separate rings, we want 3 interlinking rings. So, after all that effort, we're going to saw through 2 of them and link them together. If you think I've lost the plot at this point, I haven't. Well, not because of this anyway. The reason we finish the rings to completion before sawing through again is because once they're linked together it becomes much harder to file, sand and polish. So if we've done all the hard work already, hopefully, there will be very little finishing to do. So, very carefully saw through 2 of your rings. If you've done such a spectacular job soldering and finishing your rings and you can't find your join, firstly, bravo. And secondly, check the link in the description for a solder join finding hack. Once you've sawed through 2 of your rings, very gently prise apart the joins. Be careful not to alter the roundness of your ring. This is very important. Link the complete ring through one of the sawed rings and carefully close the join. If you've sawed carefully, your join will come together beautifully and be ready for soldering again without doing anything further. Solder that ring closed with 1 small piece of hard solder, being mindful to keep the solder joint of the closed ring as far away from the ring you're soldering as possible so you don't accidentally melt the join. Quench those 2 rings and then link the 3rd open ring through the 2 rings and gently close the join using 2 pairs of flat-nosed pliers. Solder your final ring closed, quench, and pickle one last time. Once your rings are nice and clean, you can tidy up those re-soldered joins using needle files. A flat needle file for the outside and a rounded one for the inside. Be mindful to keep the other 2 rings out of the way so they don't accidentally get scratched. Now you can go back in with your emery sponges or sticks and polish the join to match the rest of the ring that you polished earlier. Give them all one final polish on the polishing motor, inside and out. Clean them off in the ultrasonic or some hot soapy water, and voila, a trio of perfectly formed, hopefully perfectly fitting, Russian rings. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hopefully see you all again very soon.